After a nerve-jangling January, a fraught early February, Ipswich Town have the welcome distraction of the FA Cup and a return to a place which holds fond memories for the class of 2024. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Welcome to the Prematch show. We are FA Cup distracted this week. Seb, is that a distraction that you welcome?
I think so. I think it's come at a really good time. It's nice to have a bit of respite from the Premier League. Premier League's weird, isn't it? Because you play so many fewer games. You know, we've bemoaned the schedule and the lack of the midweek games, but because of all the media content around it and the kind of the glare and the spotlight that's on it, you just feel like it's absolutely relentless. And after the four in a row, you know, Brighton, Man City, Liverpool, and then the disappointment of last weekend, I'm quite perfectly happy to have a break for a weekend and then look to hit it again with Villa away the following weekend. So I think it's come at a good time for us as fans. I think it's probably come as a good time for the players, something a bit different, and a good time for probably a couple of our new signings who we will discuss if we think they're going to make starts, etc.
Yeah, we're going to try and figure out the configuration, aren't we? Coventry, the opposition, a little bit more tricky to predict, but we'll do our best, having they played midweek. And yeah, as you kind of say, it's kind of feeling relentlessly disappointing at the moment. And sometimes you need to give yourself a bit of a pinch and remember where you were. And perhaps a visit back to the CBS Arena might, you know, harness those memories. We'll talk more about that later on. You've mentioned the January window slamming shut. Do you want to give you a summary of that? We obviously got Dave, Craig, and Joe's opinions of the window midweek, but what's your take, Seb?
I think it was solid, if not spectacular, is probably how I would describe it. At the time, you know, I thought Ben Godfrey coming in was a really smart bit of business, given we were kind of transitioning to more of a 3 centre-backs, but that might now flip back to a 4, and he's not really featuring. And Twanzebe, I assumed, was going to be out for longer and perhaps coming into this kind of period without him back, and he's back. So I'm not entirely sure how that one works out. Philogene, we know they wanted for ages. I know he's had a different start, but you've got to remember it's, you know, Man City at home, Liverpool away. No one was great against Southampton last weekend, so I think he'll come good and be a positive buy for the club. And Cissé's really exciting. I thought he was by far and away the only positive to take out of last weekend. I love the way he was so direct and attacking, and you could see. Do you remember we did the reaction show and a couple of Brighton fans were in the chat saying, just to warn you, he will shoot from anywhere. You could see 2 or 3 times at the weekend he was lining up to get a shot off before either being tackled or making another pass. So he's fun, and he will provide a little bit of a sort of get bums off seats moments, I think, before the end of the season. And then the goalkeeping situation, none of us were probably expecting going into the final day. Clearly a tipping point was reached last weekend. You know, Walton being out kind of makes it a bit of an easy sell, more of an easy sell perhaps, to go and get a second senior keeper, because you couldn't go what we had for the next, you know, 2 months or so. You're talking kind of mid-April, aren't you, before Walton's potentially back, and at that point we're well and truly into the run-in. So I think Palmer is a really sensible bit of business. I think you mentioned him back in the summer, didn't you, as a potential transfer target, and said anybody fancy Alex Palmer. So kudos to you. If only you'd have emailed the club 6 months ago, who knows where we might be at this point.
I'll take the money that they're paying this consultancy company to do their keeper scouting for them. I'll do it.
Is it you? Are you the data for the new goal?
If only, Seb. If only we'd save £6 million, wouldn't we? No. Keep going.
So I'm happy with Palmer coming in. We'll discuss what we're going to do at the weekend. I think he'll start, and I think he's probably going to be how many games left in the Premier League? 14. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he starts every single one.
No, I'm excited to see him in action. I know that I'm clutching a little bit of straws here, but the fact that we retain Liam Delap, is that worth drawing attention to? I'm sure our resolve was tested early on by Chelsea, and McKenna was quoted, wasn't he, partway through, saying there's no doorbell and the music's unloud and all that kind of stuff. But there would have, given the lack of quality options for strikers out there was teams shopping, weren't there, including Forest and Chelsea. So to keep him, do we not need to be grateful for that? Small mercies?
I don't think he was ever going to go in this window, because if you sell him, you're getting relegated. You're resigning yourself to relegation, let's be honest. And staying in the Premier League is worth, what, another 180 million quid, is it, whatever it is worth these days? And even if you were to get, also, we don't know the situation with Man City's buyback, which comes into play in the summer, but at best this window, you might have got 60 million quid for him, but you are putting up the white flag, I think, and saying to the rest of the league, we're accepting we're going down. We're taking the money now to potentially get a bit more money before City's buyback clause becomes active. And I don't think that's the kind of message you want to send, obviously, to the fan base or to the playing squad, etc. So enjoy him. I think Joe put in Telegram earlier, enjoy him for the next 14 games or 12 if he gets a too much ban at some point, inevitably. He will be going in the summer, regardless of what happens across the remainder of the season. Enjoy him for now. And a positive that we kept him.
Might still be fun though. Good. Well, we'll talk about Coventry more. And thank you if you've joined us live. We're not expecting maybe the traffic that we would normally get for a Premier League game, but we appreciate everyone out there in the live chat. Let us know you're there. Give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. And if you listen after the fact, we appreciate you too. Thank you for joining in. Hello to Neil's with us. Looking forward to Saturday. Hopefully be fun. Good day to our mate Ben in Sydney. Ashley, looking forward to being part of the 5,000 traveling Blue Army. If only we'd had 5,000 back in April, eh? Victor is here. Strong team versus Coventry, you reckon? We'll talk more about that later on. Lynn's predicting a 2-1. We'll get predictions as we go to Neil, fetching shirt and matching mug, dare I add, Neil. Properly on brand today. Matt beating Coventry 2-1 on that Tuesday night last April was one of the greatest moments in my life. Those next 6 days, finishing with a Premier League bus parade on the bank holiday, the most incredible week. We're going to save up. I wanted to get Matt's message in there, but we will. There's a strategic point in the middle of our script where we would definitely indulge some memories of last April evening to David. A team, he says, not our words, the words of David. Good to have you with us. AD as well, kind of alluding to, I was alluding to it about returning back to Coventry, but AD, perhaps we could reignite our season. What a fantastic night we all had there. He mentions that. Rewatched, other Neil, rewatched the 2-1 last night, including the 12 plus minutes. Oh man, that injury time. Yeah, Neil, I felt sick. It was a good night. We will talk more about that. And James mentioning VAR. I do not believe we will have VAR, will we, Seb?
No, it's not. So I think it comes into play from when do they go to Wembley? Is that the semi-final stage? I think, I might be wrong. I think it comes into play from the semi-final stage and is in play for the final. But these kind of rounds, you can't do it because there'll be non-league sides playing at home in this round and the tech's just not there. So you get a free hit. If we score a goal and the linesman doesn't flag, go nuts, everyone.
There you go. Ipswich Town old boy. I feel strangely positive about the rest of the season. You said, should I be sectioned? I would want you to be positive for the second half of the season. Who knows what could happen? I think we could probably predict there is maybe some inevitability about just the pyramid and how skewed the competition is at the top flight. But we are a team, as we know, that improves from mid-February onwards. So who's to say that isn't going to happen again and we go on a run? Wouldn't it be good to get some wins on the board and give ourselves a chance? But definitely not too early to have faith. I don't think it's packing up yet.
When's Valentine's Day? Because Bristol City was Bristol Rovers was the 0-0. That was Valentine's Day. Millwall away last year, 4-0. Was that the start of that amazing run? That was Valentine's Day, wasn't it? So if Valentine's Day is it's Friday. Villa. Right. So we're going to go smash Villa 3-0. And that's when the run starts from the last couple of years. There you go. You heard it here first.
Clip your podcast. Yeah. There we go. Thank you, ITFC old boy, giving us some optimism. That's what we want. We're trying to, foster the optimism. ITFC women, looking for some optimism of just playing a damn match. 2 matches now called off for adverse weather or dodgy pitches. Hoping third time lucky away at Lewis this weekend. I will be on the minibus with the official supporters club and everyone going down there to support the girls. Lewis, mid-table, steadied after a relegation from the Championship. Town won the reverse fixture 5-0. So really good imposing win there, but Lewis, a team to be respected. And because of these postponements, Town have dropped down away from the top spot, but have just so many games in hand now that and have strengthened. Ruby Doe, we mentioned on the Flagship, has joined. So everything, the building blocks are there for a really positive second half of the season for the ITFC women as well. We wish them all the very best. And if you're in the neighbourhood on Sunday, head down to Lewis. Otherwise, it's back to the AGL at some point. I think there's a midweek, a Wednesday night, maybe Billericay seems to ring a bell. So do head down to the Martello ground, as it's now called, and support ITFC women. I've put it off no longer, Seb. We're 10 minutes in. Let's talk about Coventry. And I will let you introduce that. I would normally give my take on this, but there's some bants that you want to have, isn't there?
The Richard Woodward derby. For those of you who are new to the podcast, before Rich became an Ipswich fan in the last few years, he lived in the West Midlands for a while, so was a diehard Coventry fan, used to go week in week. Did you have a season ticket?
People are going to believe you. People are going to believe you.
He used to do a Coventry podcast, Coventry Talk with Rich. I think that's what it was called. So yeah, he used to be a massive, massive Coventry fan, but he has migrated across to Ipswich over the last few years. And they're a bit of an interesting club. Obviously, they've made a managerial change. They've changed a manager who's taken them from probably their lowest point as a club. If we think where they were down in League Two. There were issues around the ground and the ownership, and they were playing in St Andrews in Birmingham for a while. And he took them to within a penalty kick of the Premier League, a playoff final defeat to Luton, and then a penalty kick defeat to Man United in the semi-final, 3-0 down, pulled it back to 3-3. VAR ruled out a winner for them. So this manager, Mark Robbins, took them to within a penalty kick of the Premier League and the FA Cup final, but they dispensed with his services last November. They appointed Frank Lampard, so obviously they now become called Frank Lampard's Coventry City, and a mediocre start, but has done pretty well in recent weeks. They played last night, lost last night to Leeds, but that's no disgrace given how Leeds are going so far this season. So yeah, a bit of redemption for Mr. Lampard after a couple of dodgy appointments in the Premier League. People kind of questioning if he cut out to be a manager, or was he one of these class of, England's 2000 and whatever,
golden generation.
who can't really make the step up. He's doing all right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of, it's not a similar comparison to Rooney, but Lampard being crap at Coventry is kind of quite a boring narrative to your point. All of the, Stevie G got sacked, didn't he, or left his club role last week. It's quite boring that these guys haven't figured it out. And I think probably the most decorated coach of the lot, seemingly, is Ashley Cole, isn't it? So he's not got the gig. Maybe he gets the top job next. But Lampard, good positive start. And the Mark Robbins situation, we will talk about Lampard coming in. It does. Mark Robbins wasn't a player at Coventry, as far as I'm aware, but it did have a sense of the kind of George Burley sacking in 02-03, Seb, where he'd got so much credit in the bank and goodwill. Probably Mark Robbins, obviously from a different perspective, having taken them through the leagues and so on. So when he was eventually sacked, and any other club, any other manager, they'd pull the trigger sooner. So he did get a little bit extra time. But even when it happens, it's quite an emotional thing. I think he got an honorary doctorate from the University of Coventry, where Stevie in the chat is an alumni. And that happened weeks after him getting sacked as well. So there's a lot of emotion in kind of entailed in that decision. But as we know, they've took a lot of transfer money in over the last few seasons, Gyökeres and Harmer. And therefore that brings expectation of results, and that's just not happened for whatever reason. So yeah, they've rolled the dice with Frank Lampard. What's the state of play in the league? We obviously, this is heavily caveated that this is an FA Cup preview, but we'll give you the take of what things are like for Coventry in the league. So usual format there. What's the state of play, Seb?
So we shifted them up the table. They're 11th at the moment with 41 points. They are 3 points, I think it is, off 6th, the final playoff position. Played 31 games. Doesn't that sound crazy? Played 31 by the start of February. And what are we on now? We're on 23, are we? 24? It's crazy, the difference with the championship. Won 11 of them, drawn 8, lost 12, scored 41 goals, conceded 40, so a +1 goal difference. Interesting, I was looking to see kind of what he's maybe changed since he took over, and they don't appear to have much of an issue with chance creation, but they do have an issue with taking those those chances. They're second highest in the league for XG behind Leeds, an XG of 49, only scored 41 goals. They're the second highest for big chances created with 81, but they are the highest for big chances missed with 58. The goals they've scored put them kind of sixth in the league for goals scored. So they're okay at scoring, but they create so many chances. You would suggest with a more clinical striker, we'll discuss Hadji Wright, he's been out injured since November, but perhaps the more clinical striker, they could find themselves further up the table than where they are. He's also tightened them up defensively. They conceded 25 goals in the first 17 matches of this season. They've conceded 15 goals in the 13 games since he's taken over. And as I said earlier, they've hit a bit of form. They had 4 wins on the bounce before last night's defeat to Leeds. They beat Swansea, Watford, Blackburn and Bristol City. There was a tactical tweak, which we'll discuss, which led to this good run of form. And as we know in the Championship, if you win 4 games on the bounce, you shoot up the table. And when he took over, I think they were 2 points above the relegation zone and kind of really struggling, and no relegation issues whatsoever, I would suggest now, and eyes very firmly upwards. And that's because Lampard's come in and done a decent job. They're okay-ish at the what's it called now? Is it still the Rico? CBS. They're okay at the CBS Arena. 24 points, which puts them 13th in the league. 3 wins in their last 5 at home: Watford, Bristol City and Plymouth. 1 draw, Millwall, and last night's defeat to Leeds.
Should we talk about that defeat to Leeds? Because it felt like we've been talking about goalkeepers a lot on the podcast, haven't we? Mellier, who's come into a lot of criticism, probably won them the game, didn't he, for Leeds, Seb?
Yeah. I mean, they lost 2-0. That's the homework behind it. And there was a goalkeeping issue at the other end as well, wasn't it? Criticism for the Coventry keeper, Dovin, who kind of, well, the first goal is possession lost up pitch by Ellis Sims. They counter and they score. And the second goal, Bogle, the Leeds right back, kind of runs the whole length of the pitch, gets a shot off and it's spilt. A goalkeeper spilling a shot back into a dangerous area, where we heard that one before, to make it 2-0. But yeah, they kind of 9 shots, 1 big chance created, but the XG comparison wasn't really there. You know, Leeds finished with 2.7 XG to Coventry's 0.59. So Leeds were well worth the victory. They are storming the league. So like I said, there's no real, disappointment to lose to a side the quality of Leeds. Lampard is still kind of finding his feet and still trying to find what works. They've made a tactical change I'll talk about shortly. And given the recent form, I don't think they'll be too downcast on this one.
But Mellier had to make 2 really excellent point-blank saves. I know the XG and big chances don't suggest it. There's one, I think, from, is it Sims up front, I think, possibly last night. Header, point-blank header that kind of reminded me of Christoph versus Richard Wright in the playoff final. So there was some heroics from the much maligned Mellier to win the match there, but Leeds probably statistically dominant to just about deserve it. Do you want to deal with the last round FA Cup win as well while we're at it, Seb? Sheffield Wednesday?
Very quickly, yeah. So in the third round, they played Sheffield Wednesday at the CBS Arena. It was a 1-1 draw. Sheffield Wednesday equalised in like the 93rd minute or something. Went to penalties. Obviously not the best of records with penalties, given the playoff final defeat and the FA Cup semi-final defeat, but they proved victorious. They actually missed the second penalty, but they won 4-3 on penalties against Sheffield Wednesday. And they went very full strength for that game. There was very little rotation. It looked like a pretty strong 11. Things have changed slightly now with their schedule. We've mentioned they played last night. They do play QPR midweek coming up next week, so it's sandwiched between 2 midweek league games. So it remains to be seen what they do at the weekend, but they went pretty full strength at that third round tie.
We've talked about Robbins and Lampard. Is there anything more you want to kind of add on that? I think there's a lot of history that we kind of know about Lampard, with Derby in particular, the spells at Chelsea, not doing great at Everton, but then who has of late, apart from maybe David Moyes seemingly. Anything you want to add there?
Just that I think he maybe deserves a little bit of credit, a bit like Rooney, for taking that decision to move back down a division. You know, he started at Derby, cut his managerial teeth at Derby, kind of finishing the playoffs with them. Okay, he was aided with Mason Mount and Tomori and Harry Wilson and stuff, so he had a very good squad. But, Chelsea manager, poor spell at Everton, awful spell, caretaker at Chelsea, but there is mitigation that with the off-field stuff. And I just think he deserves a bit of credit for stepping back down again. It would be quite easy to hang around and wait for a Premier League club to come calling, which somebody probably would at some point. I think at some point. I think it would be a poor ownership decision who would fancy a name and would therefore potentially go for him. But kudos, a bit like Rooney going down to Plymouth. You know, it's a level they've never played at, unless he had a loan spell. It's a level where the finances are completely different. The fixtures are a lot more chaotic. So, yeah, I just think maybe fair play for stepping back a bit, kind of working on yourself as a manager looking to improve and stepping down to, okay, it's an easy level to what he's used to in terms of a playing career. But we know the Championship is a hell of a division to try and get out of. It can be brutal at times. So I just thought a bit of credit was due there.
Yeah, and since the IKEA shut down in Coventry, there's not a huge amount of excitement there compared to London and Liverpool. So fair play. I suspect he's
West
living
Midlands
in Solihull.
pants there.
There's enough West Midlands in the chat, so I can get away with it. History, Seb, very positive in our favour, but heads up, chat. This is where we want your memories for April 2024. Talk us through the history, Seb.
Yeah, 40 wins for Town, 25 draws between the two, and 25 Coventry wins. Will end on the April game. So we have met them in the FA Cup in the not too distant past. 2019, I think we played them 3 games in a row. We drew 1-1 away. We lost the game at home 2-1. But I think in the middle, we played them in the league as well. I think that was a 1-1 draw. That was at St Andrews where they were playing at the time. We haven't lost away to Coventry since the opening day of the Roy Keane first full season. A 2-1 defeat.
Clinton Morris turned into an absolute beast for some reason. I think John Walter scored quite a good goal from range. But yeah, that was after the positive summer post Gio dos Santos, where we thought didn't need any strengthening, and then it was a rude awakening opening day at Coventry.
And then very quickly, before we come on to the April game, I want to line up a quiz from you. I'll let you choose either game. Do you want the 1-1 FA Cup away draw in December 2019, or do you want the opening day of the 2009-2010 season? What would you rather?
I was at both. I mean, I'm going to struggle with certainly the. Can I do the Keane era? I could probably do. You tell me. What you pick? Dealer's choice. I'm going to
do the Keane one. If you're at the Keane one, do the Keane one. Yeah, go on. It's a 4-4-2, judging from the formation lines, if that helps.
Yeah. So Walter scored the goal, didn't he?
Yeah. Looks like he started up front, not on the right wing where we knew him for most of his career.
I'm trying to think who was in goal at that point. Was it Martin Fulop?
No, that's the following season. No, this guy saved a penalty on his debut, not on his debut, on Roy Keane's first game away to Cardiff.
I need to hide the chat, don't I? There you go, Neil Wilmore.
No, it wasn't Shane Supple. No, he came back. It was his second spell at the club. Magilton boy.
No, Richard Wright.
Richard Wright. Yeah, Richard Wright was the keeper. Yeah.
I'm really struggling here. I'll
give you a clue. It's 4 centre backs playing along the back 4.
So Gareth McCauley in there, presumably.
Yeah.
David Norris in there too. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember the signings. Yeah. Lee Martin.
Yes.
Is he there yet? Grant Ledbetter in there yet?
Not yet. Hadn't arrived yet.
Carlos Edwards in there yet?
Hadn't arrived yet. They both arrived at the end of that window a few weeks' time.
Shane O'Connor?
No.
Okay, give me some clues.
If we can't make a player out of him, we'll have failed.
Oh, Pim Balkestein.
Yeah, Pim Balkestein.
Wow.
Looks like he started left centre back. The left back was the player playing out of position that we signed from QPR. Might have been Roy Keane's first signing. Went on to not be good enough for the Championship and moved to Palace and played about 200 games in the Premier League.
Oh, Damien Delaney.
Yeah. Right back was a player playing out of position. Shock.
No, you need to give me more than that.
Alex Bruce was the
Alex
the right
Bruce, blimey.
And then you've got a centre midfielder, a young prospect who was quite highly rated. No, not Luke Hyam. No. That's the following year, I think. Quite highly rated. Never really did it. I think he went out on loan the following season. No, Garvin came off the bench. Neil Garvin did come off the bench, but it was Liam Trotter that started.
I like Liam Trotter.
Alongside David Norris. The right wing was a player who didn't seem to feature for us for about 3 years and then came back in out of the wilderness. We beat Man United and Chelsea to sign him. Would you believe it?
Oh, Jamie Peters.
Jamie Peters. And the strike partner
last week, wasn't he? A couple of weeks on Telegram. Someone tapped him. Yeah, I think.
Okay. And then the strike partner for Jonathan Walters was John Stead.
Oh, I love John Stead. Much maligned John Stead. Yeah, I should have done that. Yeah, the one was at St Andrews, wasn't it? It was a grotty day, really horrible.
It was horrible. I think it was chucking down with rain like it always is when we go to St Andrews, and it was Will Keane scored, and then Callum O'Hare scored a 94th minute equaliser.
Will Keane,
the replay. But those are long past. It was April the 30th 2024, the best birthday I will ever have. We all made the trip to the CBS Arena, knowing we were 4 points away from the Premier League. We had the epic 3-3 draw with Hull the previous Saturday, and we kind of all went there and just kept thinking to ourselves, as long as we don't lose, we'll be okay. They were coming off the back of was it the first game after their FA Cup semi?
I
think it was, wasn't it? And they were missing an awful lot of players. And I mean, other than the Amari Hutchinson second goal at Hull, I don't think I've watched a goal more last season than that Kiefer Moore opener. I still get goosebumps from the commentary, and
great commentary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. We all went absolutely nuts, and yeah, what an evening. Do you know what shocked me? I know people discussing the 12 minutes of injury time. I was shocked how little time there is between Haji Wright equalising and Cameron Burgess putting us back in front. It's like less than 5 minutes, I think, but for some reason in my head it was like 20 minutes.
Like a lifetime.
Yeah,
I was counting down the minutes to our mate Chris next to me. It's like there's 5 minutes, there's 10 minutes, there's 15 minutes. Like we just needed to get through it somehow, didn't we? And we did. And you're spot on about the commentary and the way and cheer. There's a really great Coventry fan blog from that night from the opposite end of the stadium. Oh. And it wasn't from my podcast, my Coventry podcast. I was going to swear then. Thank goodness I didn't. And they just let the goal play out and the cheer go out, and they go, wow, that's a big cheer. I recommend searching that out. Also, ITFC radio commentary, I think it's a YouTube channel that posts the commentary from matches. There's a Talk Sport commentary for the full game uploaded to that channel, and the guy does a similar one to it's like Kiefer Moore. It's like, and the away end goes pandemonium in the away end. So yeah, let us know your thoughts, your recollections of that night, because I've got a few. I was in the car with Dave and his mate John, who drove us up there. We went via Stansted Airport on the way back because the A14 was partially shut, I think. Had a Mackie D's, and then a birthday message to you from Jonathan Frakes landed in my inbox. That made the evening even better. But yeah, nearly getting run over. Yeah, there we go. Streaky 94. Right on cue.
Oh, didn't James Rand nearly run you down?
And Streaky as well. Car park was full of mad and reckless fans. I had to run across the A444, I think it is, because they shut the bridge back to the car park. So what you expected to do? But yeah, just great night. And
the full-time scenes were amazing. Do you remember when Chambo was doing post-match with Sky and we were all chanting, and then obviously all the players came over and left. We did the Chambers chant, and then Mark Ashton came out, didn't he, and was giving it fist bumps and stuff. Yeah, like AD says, yeah, I'm sure he came down the touchline giving it fist bumps, and we knew we'd done it. I think I played Waka Waka on repeat for the entire drive back to Chester. I got back about 1 a.m. or whatever, and yeah, an unbelievable evening. Promotion again, ole ole, all being sung throughout the concourse. It was incredible. It was last season's Barnsley. A lot of comparisons to Barnsley. I remember the big Blue Army chant, or Blue and White Army chant, that seemed to go on in the second half, and it was an incredible night, an incredible moment, and a match that none of us are gonna ever forget, are we? It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and Coventry on the night didn't roll over either, and that kind of added to the jeopardy. Obviously equalised, didn't they? And I think we both had moments. We probably should have taken at least Broadhead a couple of good chances.
Hit the post, didn't he? Hit the bar
as well.
Sarmiento had a few chances. Yeah, I remember Sarmiento running back in the wherever it was 93rd minute in central midfield and putting in a Sam Morsy-esque challenge on somebody. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, Burwellian. Couldn't get a ticket, had it on TV, spent the second half nervously pacing the living room, much nervier than Barnsley 3-0 the season before. Neil, people dancing on the platform at Cov Station singing promotion again, LA. Innocent bystanders asking what happened. Blue Army chant in the first half as well. Drive home to Lowy was glorious, says Streaky, yes, and great memories. And, you know, hopefully we can harness some of that, certainly the away, and harness some of that on Saturday and kind of rekindle some of those great memories, because that's what it's about. That's what we want it. You know, that's the enjoyment, isn't it? Premier League's quite brutal, isn't it, at times, and sometimes a little bit corporate, a bit plastic, and the joy sometimes just isn't there. So hopefully folk can get some pleasant memories and avoid dodgy drivers in the car parks and roads around the CBS Arena. Welcome to Glenn from the Sky Blue Hub. Hi guys, hope you have a nice trip to the CBS on Saturday. Should be a good game. Looking forward to seeing how Ipswich and Cov match up. And he adds, Seb, you didn't put this in the script. Frank Lampard never lost a home FA Cup tie, presumably with Coventry, Glenn. I assume with other clubs, maybe not. So, well, who knows?
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not.
So, yeah, thank you for joining us. Do correct us if and when we go wrong with the scripts. But yeah, excited to see how the game goes. Let's put all that sentimental bollocks out of the way, Seb. Let's get onto the meat of the agenda and look ahead to Saturday. Coventry, business-wise, I don't think there's anything of relevance for Saturday because of being cup tied, but tell us where we're at with Coventry and maybe go on to the change of system to the back three that has resulted in this change of, this uptick in form.
Yeah, so Matt Grimes has come in from Swansea for £3 million in the window. That was their only real kind of business of note. He's cup tied. He played for Swansea in a defeat against Southampton, so he can't figure at the weekend. Incredible passing accuracy. He's something like second in the league for passing accuracy, 80% or so. So a decent addition by them. And then we'll look at the tactical side of things. So kind of Lampard takes over. It looks like he goes to a 4-2-3-1 for the first 7 or 8 games. And there's a bit of, as you would expect with maybe a new manager kind of coming in, there's a bit of inconsistency. And then it looks like they lose to Norwich 2-1, but they changed to a kind of a back three with wing backs, and that seems to be what he's kept pretty much all across that four game winning run and last night. And this is how they lined up last night: a clear back three. Van Uyck, the right wing back, very, very pacey. Bidwell, the left wing back. Radoni and Torp like to push forward and support the forward players with Jamie Allen, or it'll be Matt Grimes, I would assume, moving forward in the league to provide that midfield kind of base. So this is how they lined up with the 3 kind of 5-2 wing back system. If we then do our usual shift to where the average player positions were, you will see it moves to a very, very congested kind of centre of the pitch. So as you can see, that to me screams of a side looking to maybe hit teams quickly on the counter by winning back possession. I've mentioned the right back, Van Uyck's pace. He is very, very rapid. And you've got the kind of Radoni, who's having an excellent season, likes to push up and get forward. Thomas Asante from West Brom. If you remember last year's podcast, I kept calling in Brendan Asante Thomas, and by the end of it, I had Dave doing the same thing. He's arrived there from West Brom and is partnering Ellis Sims, who gave George Edmondson a bit of a time with a good physical battle of that game back in April. And it's pretty much a recognisable back three. Bobby Thomas is the big one at the back who kind of marshals things. On either side, he's got two fairly dependable centre backs as well. If we then move it on to the player maps, or the heat maps where they touch the ball the most, you will see the only big real kind of notice is that Jack Radoni here moves out to the left-hand side. Now, they are second in the league for highest attacks down the left-hand flank with 40%. Only Leeds attack more down that flank than they do. So Radoni, I've mentioned, is having an excellent season, and it kind of looks a bit more normal here. It's less congested in the middle of the pitch. Sims is just about the furthest player forward, as you would expect, given his physicality and his ability to lead from the front and kind of hold the line and get others into play. And Jamie Allen still provides that defensive screen ahead of the back three. So it's that change which has really kind of brought around this really decent run of form. Possession-wise, 7th in the league, 54% possession. Passing accuracy isn't amazing. 81% is only 11th. They do love a cross. They are highest for crosses per game in the division with 23, and they are highest for crossing accuracy with 6 per game. So don't be shocked if the fullbacks are bombing on and whipping in crosses. I guess when you've got Ellis Sims and his physical kind of stature in the air, then that would make sense to get as many crosses as you can into him. They love a shot. 13 shots taken per game is the 4th highest. 4 of those being on target is the 5th highest. They're the lowest dribblers in the league, which did surprise me a little bit. Only average 5 per game. I thought with those marauding kind of wing backs, they might be higher up the table, but not overly dribble heavy. A bit susceptible from set pieces. A bit dangerous from set pieces. 9 goals scored is the joint 6th highest in the division. They're pretty miserly at the back. 11 shots conceded per game is the 7th fewest. 15 tackles per game is also the 2nd fewest. So they will shoot. They will shoot on target. They're a threat from set pieces, and they will cross an awful lot.
Yeah, and you could see that from the, apologies for those listening on podcast, but taking those wide positions, getting the ball wide. I think a lot of that central congestion was partly to do with Leeds.
I thought that was a fair representation of what they might try and do against us, in theory, being they're playing against Leeds, and in theory, we're a level above Leeds again in theory. So potentially that might be the kind of thing they do, kind of bog down the centre of midfield and make it difficult for those players to get on the ball.
Maybe so, yeah. I mean, the key going forward from this kind of point onwards is that we are speculating as to who might come in and out because of rotation, because of league games, the congestion that they've got. But key players who may or may not feature, Seb. I mean, the first on your list here, let's remember last season, Jack Redoni, I think, gives up possession with George Hurst, doesn't he?
He does.
And
He loses
immediately
the ball.
subbed by Huddersfield, isn't he, in that last game?
Yeah, Huddersfield at home, was it the 30th minute or so? He loses possession. The ball finds itself to Hurst, to Chaplin, to Burns, 1-0, and immediately the Huddersfield manager took him off. He got a £5 million move from Huddersfield that summer. He's got 3 goals and 8 assists so far this season. He's created 58 chances, 12 of which have been classed as big chances. He likes to drift left. We've just seen the graphic there where he kind of moves out to link up with the left fullback. So he's having a great season. Ellis Sims and Brandon Thomas-Asante, I've just mentioned, are the front two kind of in the league program. Again, they played Leeds last night. If you're listening on the Thursday, played Leeds on the Wednesday night. They're playing QPR on the Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So I wouldn't be that surprised if they made a change. Norman Bissett will come in, 20-year-old striker. I think he's Belgian. Got a couple of goals so far this season. Sims and Thomas-Asante have 4 goals and 2 assists apiece. I've already mentioned Milan Van Ewijk pushes very high.
Still there, by the way. I think there was some interest with him from other clubs. Yeah,
seriously quick, 2 goals and an assist, kind of fits the pace and the power that you potentially need moving up further through the leagues. Victor Torp, I've already mentioned Jack Redoni. Victor Torp is the other kind of midfield who will push on and look to get involved further up the pitch with the safety net of Jamie Allen or Matt Grimes. He won't feature, but Jamie Allen potentially sitting and protecting. Do you remember Tashiro Sakamoto in the Portman Road game? I thought he was really good. Yeah, he's bit of a stop-start season. Got injured towards the end of last year. Didn't feature, did he, in the April game? 3 goals and 3 assists. I think he might well come in and get a game. Oliver Dovin is the regular number 1 keeper. He's +3 in the goals prevented stats. Saves 72% of shots, which is the 7th highest in the league. So he might well be the keeper. They've got some issues. Haji Wright, a name we all know. Were we linked with him in this window, or did I make that up?
I think we might have made that one up. We were definitely linked with Ellis Sims, weren't we? Because there was the chat that he was at Corby Services deciding whether to go to Coventry or Ipswich.
Yeah, so Haji Wright's been out. He's still the top scorer with 7 goals, but he's been out since early November. Ankle ligament damage, came back into training at the start of January. Lampard said it's kind of taken a bit longer than expected to get him back. So I'd imagine this game's probably come too soon for him. Ben Sheaf, a name we were definitely linked with in the summer and who a lot of fans were kind of assuming we would make a bid for to sit alongside Mr. Morsey in midfield. He's been out since the start of January. Probably out for a couple of weeks more, so won't make this one. Efren Mason-Clark was a signing from Peterborough, one of the Peterborough alumni who they get good money for. Having a good season. I think it's 4 goals and 4 assists, but he's been out since Boxing Day with a hamstring, and I've already mentioned Matt Grimes is cup-tied.
Cool. Yeah, and our mate Glenn from the Sky Blue Hub, Bissett is a top wind-up merchant, so that will be fun for us, I'm sure. Good. Anything else that we want to add on Coventry? I think we've dealt with a lot there. Worth adding, the referee, Ben Toner, spent equal proportions refereeing in League One and the Championship. No Premier League matches. So it may be a more lenient afternoon for us, which will be good. Or maybe
he won't be reliant on VAR bailing him out, so he might actually ref the game properly.
Might get some, and I think he's not particularly card happy. He hasn't awarded too many penalties, although did last time out he refed Sheffield Wednesday versus Luton. An angle there if you want to read into that, whatever you want. Glenn's given his Coventry side. Shall we put that up on the screen, Seb? Do you want to talk us through that?
Okay, so that's very heavy rotation. Like Glenn says further down, the game on Tuesday night, they've got designs on getting into the playoffs. So that's by far the bigger game. So potentially that 3rd round game back at the start of January, things were very different. They weren't on the run of form they have been coming into this one. So with the side flying up until last night's defeat, which we've said isn't a big deal, it does make sense to give squad players a proper run out and then hit QPR next week with your first 11. So out of that one, we'd recognise Sakamoto from the Portman Road game, who was decent. De Silva, I think, is a left back. Allen would probably start again. He started last night. Lampard didn't seem to want to throw Matt Grimes straight into it. And as Glenn said, apparently Bassett is the wind-up merchant, so watch out for that on the weekend.
Like Liam Kitching, Josh Eccles as well. Thanks, Glenn, for sharing that. We're going to have a break and we'll come back and try and guess how Kieran McKenna's going to deal with it.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thank you to Atwells. Thank you also to One Stop Badges, if Seb can point, or has he got a badge to display? There you go. And Seb's going on Saturday, so if you find Seb, he might have a badge, or is your stash running low?
I think I've got about 4 or 5 left.
We are running low. We will consider whether we do a second run on those. But One Stop Badges, 10% promo, get collectibles, merch, little, what's the word I'm looking for, Seb? Little consumables for your brand, charity, podcast of choice. Link in the description there. As always, if you made it this far, thank you to it's a VIP audience, I think, tonight live in the chat. So do give us a thumbs up if you're there. Let us know you're there and enjoying the show. Thank you to those who've liked over on Facebook. Scott and Jason, we see you. We appreciate you. If you're listening again on podcast, if you're on your way up the A14 or in Seb's case down the M6, do let us know as well. We love to hear about that. Give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. Very easy to do. We appreciate all that kind of stuff. And a bit of rotation on the Blue Monday side of things as well. I think Ben will be in the host chair, but a little bit of jiggery-pokery with a lineup, joining him for the Sunday Night Live, 8 p.m, talking about Coventry after the fact. Other than that, I think Telegram is still there, even though there's no transfer business. Match day chat will resume on Friday evening all the way through to Saturday night. Do get involved there. But everything you need, Blue Monday, itfc.co.uk. So, Seb, the question for Kieran McKenna is, how much, if at all, do you rotate? What is your take?
I think he will rotate. I expect to see a good, probably the vast majority of players will change from the weekend. But equally, we've lost 4 on the bounce, and I'd be really worried about losing becoming a habit. And I guess if you do make those wholesale changes, then potentially you do lose some of that rhythm and that familiarity. And, you don't want to be going to Villa Park on the back of 5 defeats on the bounce, one of which is a cup tie against a side in the league below us. So, yeah, I think he will make a lot of change. I think the 3 players that we could guarantee will be Palmer will start in goal. He's not cup tied for West Brom.
Ben's going to be very disappointed about that. Our resident Coventry as well.
And that's exactly why we had to make the change, because Muric is the videos are out there now. People know that he's not having a good season. So Palmer will 100% start in goal. I would be shocked if he doesn't. Connor Townsend, I would be shocked if he doesn't start at left back. A really solid performance at Anfield, decent performance against Bristol Rovers in the 3rd round. So he will start. George Hurst will start as well up front in place of Liam Delap. And then, yeah, we discussed Ben Godfrey earlier, so I always think Godfrey will be in the right back role. It will probably be Wolfenden and Burgess at the back. Burgess returning to the place where he scored that ever so important goal last April. Central midfield is an interesting one. A lot of criticism for Sam Morsy in the last week or so. I would play him alongside Calvin Phillips, because I would then not be playing him at Villa Park in the following weekend. Phillips needs a game. He needs to get some minutes into his legs. So Phillips and Morsy centre mid for me. This is my lineup, what I think will happen, what Rich has put on the screen there. Philogene needs some minutes as well. We're suffering on that right wing. Ben Johnson doesn't really play that far forward in an advanced role. Amari Hutchinson, to me, has looked a little bit tired in recent weeks, so could potentially do with a break. So I'd have Philogene wide right. I'd then have Jack Taylor in the middle, because Smodic is injured, Chaplin's injured, and Ciso is cup tied after scoring against Norwich in the 3rd round. So I'd push Jack Taylor slightly further forward, Jack Clark coming in on the left, and George Hurst through the middle. Now, if we were to rock up at whatever it is, 1:45 on Saturday, and that was Godfrey, Dara O'Shea, Greaves, Townsend, Morsy, Phillips, Hutchinson, Philogene. If it was a much more stronger looking lineup, bar Davis and bar Liam Delap, I wouldn't have an issue with that, because like I say, you've got to shake this losing habit. And my other concern would be, you're going to give Alex Palmer his debut behind 2 centre-halves that he might never play with again, whereas you've got a chance to potentially start to build a relationship with him behind O'Shea and Greaves. So I'm not sure what he'll do. I'd probably expect him to do the rotation stuff, but if it went a lot more full strength, I'd have no issue with that, and hopefully get a win to breed some confidence.
Yeah, let us know what you think about Seb's 11 there. I can put that back up on the screen. Give us your take on that one. I think probably I would concur with that back line. Worth noting that Palmer and Townsend have a lot of history with each other, which I think is helpful. But otherwise, I think Godfrey is someone that I'd quite like to see getting in to the Premier League lineup at some point soon.
Instead of Twanzebe?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I suspect that there's a loan situation, there's a contract situation around Twanzebe as well, which I think needs careful monitoring. And I think Godfrey is possibly more mobile, and yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he starts to feature a little bit more. Wolfman and Burgess both pretty unfortunate to not be starting in the Premier League of late as well. So I think that's kind of a factor there. I think they deserve minutes and keep them match fit because they might want to come in. I'd be tempted to not even play Morsey tomorrow on Saturday. I'd be tempted by Luongo in there, and maybe it's a similar kind of that triangle there with Taylor in the 10, which I probably understand and appreciate. I think Amari deserves a break. I'd be tempted to give Luongo some minutes in there alongside Phillips. And other than that, the only thing, I think your wide players, Philogene and Clark, definitely need minutes and ideally some confidence, don't they, to try and get goals or create assists and that kind of stuff. Broadhead
and to get up to speed with the patterns of play as well. They need to learn how we do things, don't they? You know, we saw against Southampton when Philogene came on, you know, he kind of didn't know what to do in the final third at times, did a lot of hard work getting up the pitch, and then didn't really know what pass to make and who would be where. And that's the kind of stuff that's only going to get ironed out with kind of playing with these guys week in, week out.
True. And it's funny, you look at that team and think, I mean, as a championship team, that's pretty fierce, and that would be do pretty well in the championship, wouldn't it? And that's our rotated team. So you can credit for the recruitment. We've had to do a lot in very quick order. But, you know, even that rotated team looks pretty strong, doesn't it, Seb? So obviously we'll see what Coventry do, but we've given our thoughts. What say the chat? Let me, we've got a lot of love for Palmer. Glenn confirming Palmer always plays well against Coventry. Must be the Midlands thing there. Neil, it might be we need to get a settled side and breed the winning habit. He's concurring with your plan. Is it your plan A or your plan B, Seb? I think you're sticking with your lineup.
I think he'll rotate. Yeah, I do think McKenna will rotate. But if it was that strong lineup, I could totally understand why. There's so many long gaps in the Premier League, isn't it? It would be 2 weeks between Southampton and Villa. So, you know, we don't have that Saturday, Tuesday, as you quoted brilliantly half an hour or so ago. So you can afford maybe to go stronger in these cup competitions. And also worth pointing out, somebody's mentioned it in the chat there are quite a few all Premier League ties this round. And if we can beat Coventry, as Trevor says there, we're only 3 games from Wembley with a fair chunk. You know, Arsenal will be out. I don't know who. Is Spurs got Man United, or have I imagined that maybe? There's going to be at least a couple of other kind of big boys going out this round, and then things do open up a little bit. So it would be nice if was it Wigan that won the FA Cup but got relegated
back in the 90s under Brian Robson.
It would be nice. Maybe we never played at the new Wembley. Obviously, a cup semi-final at the new Wembley, that'd be quite nice, wouldn't it? In mid-April, whatever it would be.
Yeah, Colin, big supporter of Godfrey, as am I. Neil, any news on Chaplin and Smodic? We're not expecting this weekend, are we, Seb?
I don't think so. No pre-match presser today. I assume it's going to be tomorrow. And I think they were a couple of weeks away last weekend, weren't they? So maybe back in time for Villa, but I don't think they'll make this one unless it's another Kieran McKenna smokescreen.
AD, totally agree with you, Seb, about playing Palm with our strongest centre-backs. So maybe that's the compromise we make there. That would kind of make sense, I think. Colin doesn't want the team to be changed. I think in the league, I've got some sympathy with that, but the cup, Seb, I think we need to get minutes into players, don't we? And as you said, familiarity for new signings for the system. Worth noting, NC said cup tied, as we said, so he can't feature. But I know where Colin's coming from, but this one, I think you've got to, haven't you?
I think you can't play Delap. I wouldn't have Delap or Leif Davis anywhere near it because they're so crucial for how we play. So those two would be complete no-no. So you've already got a couple of changes in there. I do think Amari needs a rest as well. Came back early from that injury and started against, was it Brighton? And we weren't really expecting him back. And, you know, he has looked a bit leggy since he came back in. So I think there need to be a few changes through necessity.
John's asking the question, who'd take a day out at Wembley and relegation?
I would. Oh, a day out at Wembley, as in you win it? Or just to get there?
Clarify, John.
I would take the FA Cup and get relegated in a heartbeat.
I'd win the FA Cup, but you wouldn't take a semi-final.
Do a Wigan. No, I wouldn't take a semi-final in relegation, but I would certainly win the FA Cup, but you're going to go down. Yeah, no problem. Take that every day of the week.
We're going to finish with predictions. If you've got any other observations about the lineups, then get them in there. But I think we're all taking a bit of a punt and trying to predict the future, which is always a difficult thing to do. But if you've got any views on that, let us know. But we are going to end with match predictions. We're not going to do our FPL feature because the game week is still open, but Seb's won it because of triple captaining Mo Salah. But it looks like game week
next week as well.
Game week 25 is going to be another. There's some double game week stuff that I can do in there. So we had a suggestion from FPL Track that we should use our assistant manager chip on McKenna. We should both do that.
Okay,
We'll
that's
debate
fair.
that
Yeah, I don't mind doing that.
separately.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
But our FPL feature, if we were going to do it, is in association with Brett Vale Golf Club. Kind of lots of promos going on there. Membership fees frozen for the year, and if you sign up for a membership now, it runs all the way until end of next March. So lots going on there. Quote Blue Monday or Rich's crap at FPL and get 25 quid added on your membership card for use in the bar or the pro shop. Lovely course in Constable Country, just 10 minutes south of Ipswich from the A12 Copdock interchange. So do check out Brett Vale, brettvalegolf.co.uk. So thank you very much to them for their support. I'm going to come to you, Seb, for your prediction before we go to the chats. What's the score going to be?
I think it's going to be an exact repeat of the April amazing evening. I think we're going to win 2-1. I think Coventry do create chances. They do score goals. They have a lot of shots per game. Okay, it'll be a rotated squad, but as will we. So I think we're going to win 2-1.
Okay.
I don't want extra time. I don't want penalties.
Yeah.
So can there be extra time or does it go straight to... I don't know what the rules are anymore in the FA Cup. I've forgotten. Yeah, there you go. Like Glenn says, yeah, no one wants extra time penalties. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win in the 90 minutes. A bit of a fun day out. 5,000 town fans there. Hopefully a bit of confidence for someone like a Philogene or a Jack Clark or a George Hurst. You know, I see George Hurst get a goal, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
not that goal against Brentford, but obviously injury since then, so not scored. So I'll
Did
say
he
2 goals for George Hurst.
He scored the first goal before Wes Bones Trevella, didn't he? Did he go through 1-on-1 in the home game?
Can't
I think George Hurst has some history against Coventry. I'm putting it out there. I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Ipswich. I've seen your team. I want Jack Clark to score. I want Calvin Phillips to score, and I want Jaden Philogene to score. So I just want confidence, surging through the team. There's no reason to try and be containing and the low block that we've had to deploy over the last few weeks, which hasn't really worked for us, if we're honest. I think it's time to scrap that and try and be more adventurous. So just let's go for it. Wouldn't it be great if it was a 4-3 win or something like that?
And that's what last year was all about in the Championship, wasn't it? How many games were 3-2, 4-3s, late goals, last minute wins, etc. We took the Championship. We got promoted by this out-and-out attacking football, which I know you can't do it at Premier League level because you'll get picked to pieces. Yeah, that's exactly what we did last year. So as you say, hopefully we'll see a return to that style at the weekend. Let's
see what the chat has to say. AD's got in there first. I think he's going for a 2-1 Town win. Cobb 0, Ipswich 2. Colin putting the score out in full for me. Always appreciate that. Norman going for a 3-0 Town. Street going for a 4-1 Town. Neil, score first. We win. Simples. Do we win? I'm not sure. Glenn going for a Coventry 2-1. Quite right. Colin predicting goals for Hurst and Taylor. Streaky being offensive about the FPL. I can see it. I'm not putting it up on the screen. Moving on. Chris go for a 2-1. Our mate in New Zealand. Lynn also for a 2-1. Reading 3-0. Reading Tractor 3-0. A lot of 2-1s here. Shave your stubble. Who are you talking to, Stephen? I've got a beard. Neil 3-1. Similar to me, I think. And Glenn confirming her scored first. There you go. Julian's gone for a 4-1. Tess wants Clark and Phillips to score. David 7-6 to Tower on penalties after extra time. Lovely. Full value for your day out in the West Midlands or Coventry area. Clean sheet for Palmer. Quite right. Reading Tractor. That'd be good. Confidence booster there, wouldn't it? And Stephen says, let's make the Wembley and stay up. Let's have our cake and eat it too. Quite right, Stephen. If you've got any last minute predictions, get them in now. Team predictions. We've got 1 more minute before we say goodbye. I'm trying to think. I think it comes back to me to say the final farewell, doesn't it, Seb?
Yeah, I did it last week and that went well, didn't it? I thought I might keep it for a couple of weeks. I thought Southampton at home and then Coventry. I thought I might get to do this for a couple of weeks as a sign-off, but no, it reverts to you, my friend. So thank you for hosting. Thank you to everybody in the chat. We'll be back next week for Rich's other great love of the Midlands, Aston Villa. Not quite as big a fan of Villa as he is for...
No, that's actually bollocks. I lived round the corner from Aston Villa and went to Villa Park much more than I've ever been to Coventry. So this Coventry thing is actually completely wrong. I'm more of a Villa fan than I am a Coventry fan.
It took 52 minutes, folks, but I finally got him to bite. The evening has been a success. Thank you, mate. See you next week. Enjoy.
My other podcast is an Aston Villa podcast. That's the facts.
Enjoy the game on Saturday. Hopefully see many of you there. See you next week. Sign us off, my good friend, Rich.
Yeah, thank you everyone who's made it this far. We see you in the chat. Thank you. As I said, this kind of it's a VIP luxury audience tonight. The quality, the loyal supporters right here, right now. We appreciate you. And if you're listening after the fact, all on the way up or down to Coventry to watch the game on Saturday, enjoy the match, get involved in the atmosphere, enjoy it, sing along, rekindle those good memories that we were talking about, and hopefully a victory. Join the guys on Sunday night live, 8 p.m, to talk through the game after the fact. Good luck to ITFC women. And as I said, Blue Monday, itfc.co.uk for everything you need. Please pop us a thumbs up before you leave here on YouTube, a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. I'm going to put some chat up, Seb. Do you know what? Before I say goodbye, thank you to Adi. Another great show tonight, Rich and Seb. Come on, you bluesy, says. Streaky, cheers, gents. As always, thank you, Streaky, for joining in. Metal Jace always says thank you at the end of the show. I see you, Metal Jace. I appreciate you. Our Caledonian mate Matt is with us too. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, Colin. Thank you to John, Reading Tractor, Neil, David W, the A-team. He says his words. Seb is the new. It's a different from Harry from Bath. Different podcasters for different needs. Burwellian, what? 3 pods, Rich? Yeah, what would my Villa one be called, Seb? Holt Enders.
I love Aston Villa and Coventry more than Ipswich.
Gravelly Hill, massive, yes. Spaghetti Junction.
You know all the terms. See, you know.
I live there. Come on, Neil. Thank you. Thank you, Tess. Burwellian. Cheers for you, and Stephen. Take care. Thank you, everyone. Onwards and upwards. Positivity. It's February. This is when we start getting good, isn't it? Hopefully, fingers crossed, this translates into the league. Enjoy the game. We'll see you soon. Come on, you Blues.